The silence breaks. For 4,000 years, the galaxy had been quiet. No great wars, no terrifying invasions, and no whispers of the ancient, dangerous species that had once shaken the stars. Humans. The Galactic Alliance, made up of countless alien species, thrived in this silence. But the silence was a fragile thing, and on one fateful day, it shattered. Aboard the Alliance Council station, orbiting the golden planet Aureolus, diplomats from every corner of the galaxy gathered for their daily meetings. It was a routine day until the main communication console flashed a bright, urgent red. A distress signal, sharp and unrelenting, filled the air with its mechanical hum. "What is this?" asked Counselor Threx, a scaled Xiarnian with piercing yellow eyes. His claws tapped nervously on the table. No one uses this frequency anymore. The signal carried no message, just a pattern, one the Council's systems struggled to decode. Counselor Lyria, a feathered Alarian known for her calm demeanor, leaned closer to the console. "This pattern is ancient," she murmured. "It predates even our oldest records." The room fell silent. The oldest records. It could only mean one thing: humanity. Humanity was a name that sparked fear and awe in equal measure. Long ago, they had risen from their small blue planet, proving themselves both brilliant and brutal. When an aggressive alien empire threatened the galaxy, it was humans who ended the war, ruthlessly and decisively. But their methods were too much, even for their allies. Humans were exiled, their technology buried, and their homeworld sealed off behind forbidden stargates. Now, 4,000 years later, their name was no more than a ghost story. Until today. "Could it be them?" whispered Lyria, her feathers quivering. "The humans." Counselor Threx scoffed. "Impossible. They'd vanished long ago. This must be some malfunction." Before anyone could respond, a holographic projection emerged from the console. A star map flickered into view, showing a dying system at the galaxy's edge. The distress signal pulsed from the center, a planet with a flickering, failing sun. "It's a cry for help," said Lyria. "But from who?" "Does it matter?" Threx snapped. "We cannot risk sending aid. If it is humans." "We have no proof." Lyria interrupted. "What if it's a stranded colony, or a lost explorer? We are the Alliance. We must act." The room erupted in arguments. Some agreed with Lyria, urging action. Others, like Threx, warned of the danger. The debate raged until a voice cut through the noise. "The decision is made," announced Chancellor Vryn, the senior leader of the council. Her voice was sharp, her silver scales glinting under the chamber's lights. "We will send a small scout team. If this signal is connected to humanity, we must know. If it's not, we cannot ignore those in need." The council reluctantly agreed. A small, fast ship was dispatched toward the dying system, carrying an elite team of scouts. Among them was Commander Terran, a veteran soldier from the armored Phylaxian race. His orders were simple: investigate, report, and if necessary, retreat. The dying system was cold and empty, its planets shrouded in darkness. The scout ship approached cautiously, scanning for any signs of life. As they neared the source of the signal, a massive object loomed into view. A ship, unlike anything they had ever seen. The vessel was enormous, its black hull reflecting no light. Its design was angular and alien, yet unmistakably human. Strange symbols were etched across its surface, glowing faintly as if alive. "Commander," one of the scouts whispered, "this ship, it's not from our time." Terran's sharp eyes narrowed. "Scan for life signs." The console beeped. One reading, faint but present. "It's human." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humans were supposed to be gone, their ships lost to time. Yet here one was, a relic of the past, still active after millennia. A voice crackled over their comms, deep and steady. "Unidentified vessel, state your purpose." The crew froze. The voice was undeniably human, speaking an ancient galactic dialect. Terran took a breath and responded, "This is Commander Terran of the Galactic Alliance. We received your distress signal and came to investigate. Who are you?" There was a pause. Then the voice replied, "I am Captain Ilias Venn of the Earth Defense Fleet. I've been waiting." "Waiting?" Terran asked, his voice cautious. "For what?" "For you to remember," Elias said. His tone was calm, almost cold. "And for us to return." Before Terran could reply, the massive human ship began to power up. Lights across its surface glowed brighter, and a low hum filled the air. The scout ship's sensors went wild, detecting energy levels far beyond anything in the Alliance's arsenal. "Commander," a scout said urgently, "their ship, it's activating weapons." "No," Elias interrupted, his voice echoing through the comms. "Not weapons. A beacon." The human ship released a pulse of energy, spreading across the stars. In its wake, long dormant stargates lit up, their paths leading to the forgotten edges of the galaxy. The silence had been broken, and humanity was calling. Back at the council station, alarms blared as the ancient gates reactivated. The holographic map updated, showing paths long thought lost. Laria stared in disbelief. "They're back." Threx's voice trembled. "And they're not alone." First contact. The scout ship hovered near the massive human vessel, its crew frozen in a mix of fear and awe. For centuries, the Galactic Alliance had dismissed the legends of humanity as exaggerations, but now those legends stood before them, undeniable and terrifying. Commander Terran took a steadying breath. "Captain Ilias Venn, this is Commander Terran. Your activation of the ancient stargates has caused widespread alarm. Explain your intentions." The comms crackled before Elias's voice returned, calm but with an edge of authority. "My intentions are simple, Commander. We are here to help. Your galaxy is in greater danger than you realize." Terran's brow furrowed. "Danger? From what?" "That," Elias replied, "is not a discussion to be had over unsecured channels. Prepare to board my ship. Bring only your most trusted advisors. There is much to explain." The scout crew erupted in protest. "Commander, this could be a trap," one scout argued. "Humans are unpredictable and dangerous. Their history proves it." Terran held up a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs. "History also says they fought to protect this galaxy. Until we know otherwise, we proceed with caution but without hostility. Prepare the shuttle." The crew exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. Within minutes, Terran and two advisors were on a small shuttle, approaching the human vessel. As they neared, its sheer scale became overwhelming. Its surface was a labyrinth of interlocking panels, glowing softly with energy. When they docked, a hatch slid open with a quiet hiss. The air inside was warm, heavy with a strange metallic scent. As Terran stepped through, he found himself in a cavernous hangar filled with strange machines, each humming with latent power. Waiting for them was a tall figure, clad in sleek armor that shimmered like liquid steel. "I am Captain Ilias Venn," the figure said, removing his helmet to reveal sharp features, weathered by time. His piercing blue eyes held an unsettling intensity. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Vigilance." The delegation followed Elias through the ship's corridors, which were unlike anything they had seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting subtly as they walked, and glowing lines pulsed underfoot, lighting their path. They passed small drones floating silently, their lenses swiveling to observe the visitors. "Your ship is impressive," Terran said cautiously, "but it feels alive. Is this technology or something else?" "Both," Elias replied without breaking stride. "Humans have had millennia to perfect the blending of organic and synthetic. What you see is the culmination of our survival." They entered a vast command chamber, dominated by a holographic map of the galaxy. Unlike the Alliance's maps, this one showed territories and stargates unknown to them. At its center, a pulsing red mark glowed ominously. "This," Elias said, pointing to the mark, "is why we have returned." The hologram zoomed in, revealing a black void, a region of space devoid of stars. Terran frowned. "That's the void zone. It's been lifeless for eons." Elias turned to him, his expression grave. "Not lifeless. Hidden. And now something is stirring within it. Something ancient and hostile. Our long exile allowed us to observe and prepare, but now the galaxy needs to act." One of Terran's advisors, a young Illyrian named Vec, stepped forward. "If this threat is real, why not warn us sooner? Why wait 4,000 years to return?" Elias's gaze hardened. "Because you exiled us, left us with no choice but to survive on our own. We waited because we needed to be certain that your alliance was strong enough to stand with us, not against us." The words hung heavy in the air. Terran couldn't deny the truth in them. "And now, what do you expect from us?" "Your trust," Elias said simply. "We cannot face this alone. If the alliance is willing, we will share what we know, what we've built. Together, we might have a chance." Before Terran could respond, alarms blared throughout the human ship. A voice echoed through the chamber. "Incoming vessels detected. Unknown configuration. They are locking weapons." Elias's demeanor shifted instantly. "Commander Terran, return to your ship. This is not a drill." As Terran rushed back to his shuttle, the hangar filled with activity. Human soldiers in their strange, shimmering armor prepared for combat with practiced efficiency. Terran's advisors, clearly shaken, boarded the shuttle in silence. The scout ship retreated to a safe distance, its sensors lighting up with data. The unknown vessels were sleek and angular, their designs utterly alien, even to the Alliance's advanced databases. On board the Eternal Vigilance, Elias stood at the command console, issuing orders. "Defensive Formation Alpha. Hold fire until I give the signal." The alien ships closed in, their weapons charging. A message crackled over the comms, harsh and guttural. "Surrender, humans. Your return will not be tolerated." Elias's lips curled into a faint smile. "They always assume we're the ones who should be afraid." With a gesture, he activated the ship's weapons. Beams of light lanced out, striking the alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. Within moments, the attackers were disabled, their engines dead. Elias opened a channel to the scout ship. "Commander Terran, do you still doubt the threat?" Terran stared at the debris floating in space. "I don't, but I have more questions than ever." Elias's voice softened. "Then stay close, Commander. You'll have your answers soon enough. And they won't be what you expect." The scout ship trailed the Eternal Vigilance, the crew tense with anticipation. In the silence, Terran replayed the events in his mind. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors but as protectors. Yet beneath their polished surface, he sensed something deeper, something darker. What price would the galaxy pay for their help? A deadly alliance. The Galactic Alliance scout ship maintained its cautious distance from the massive human vessel, the Eternal Vigilance. Commander Terran stood at the bridge, staring at the human ship through the viewport. The silence between the two vessels was unsettling, like the calm before a storm. Suddenly, a new signal flashed across the scout ship's sensors, a distress call from a nearby system. It wasn't just any distress signal. It bore the encryption code of the Alliance's highest priority colonies. Terran's claws tapped on the console. "Relay the signal to the humans. Let's see if their intentions truly align with ours." Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Captain Elias Venn reviewed the signal. The holographic display showed a small Alliance colony surrounded by unidentified ships. They were sleek, black, and pulsing with an eerie green light. Elias's face darkened. "The Voidborn," he muttered, his voice heavy with recognition. Back on the scout ship, Terran's comms crackled to life. "Commander Terran," Elias said, "this is no ordinary attack. The ships you see are Voidborn vessels. They are remnants of an empire that predates both your alliance and humanity's exile." Terran's eyes narrowed. "Why would they attack now, after centuries of dormancy. Elias leaned forward, his tone cold and deliberate. Because they know we've returned, and they fear us. The Alliance and human ships warped into the contested system together, a stark and uneasy alliance. The colony planet below was ablaze with fire, its defensive shields flickering under the relentless assault of the Voidborn. The alien ships moved with an eerie precision, their weapons carving through the colony's structures like surgical tools. "Commander Terran," Elias said over the comms, "you'll handle the evacuation. My ship will engage the Voidborn directly." Terran frowned. "Your ship is powerful, but you're outnumbered 5-1. Elias smirked. "We've faced worse odds." As the scout ship descended toward the planet to evacuate survivors, the Eternal Vigilance unleashed its fury. Energy beams erupted from its hull, slicing through the Voidborn ships. The humans' weapons were unlike anything the Alliance had seen, silent and devastating, as if they were tearing apart the fabric of space itself. On the surface, Terran led his team through the chaos. Fires raged, and the air was thick with smoke. The colonists, a mix of Alliance species, scrambled toward the evacuation points, their eyes wide with terror. "Move quickly," Terran barked, his voice cutting through the panic. "We don't have much time." Above them, the battle rage. The Voidborn ships retaliated with vicious efficiency, focusing their fire on the Eternal Vigilance. Despite its immense power, the human ship began to show signs of strain. Hull breaches lit up its surface, and one of its energy cannons fell silent. Back on the Eternal Vigilance, Elias monitored the battle with a grim expression. "Divert power from the secondary systems to shields," he commanded. "We're not done yet." One of his officers hesitated. "Captain, if we divert power, we'll lose the capacity for faster-than-light escape." Elias's gaze hardened. "There's no escape if we don't stop them here." "Do it." The ship's core pulsed brighter as energy surged into its shields. The Voidborn focused their assault, but the Eternal Vigilance held its ground, retaliating with brutal precision. One by one, the Voidborn ships began to falter. On the planet's surface, Terran's team completed the evacuation, but the scene outside the colony's shielded landing pads was bleak. The Voidborn were deploying ground forces, silent, biomechanical monstrosities that moved like shadows. Terran stood at the ramp of his shuttle, holding his plasma rifle steady. "Get the last group aboard," he shouted, firing at the encroaching creatures. Each shot landed with precision, but the Voidborn adapted quickly, shifting their forms to absorb the blasts. One of Terran's officers yelled, "Commander, we need to leave. We can't hold them off." Terran nodded, stepping back into the shuttle as the doors close. "Take off. We've done all we can here." As the shuttle lifted off, Terran glanced back at the colony below. The once thriving settlement was now a battlefield of fire and ash. He clenched his jaw. "Captain Venn," Terran said over the comms, "the colonists are safe. What's your status?" Elias's voice came through, strained but calm. 3 Voidborn ships down. 2 remain. Prepare for warp. This isn't over. The Eternal Vigilance delivered a final devastating volley of energy, destroying another Voidborn ship, but the remaining vessel activated a strange device, emitting a pulse that caused both human and Alliance ships to flicker with power disruptions. "What's happening?" Terran demanded as his ship's systems began to falter. Elias's voice was grim. "They're using a gravity well generator. It'll pull us into their range and disable our escape. They intend to finish us here." Terran's claws dug into the console. "What do we do?" Elias paused. Then, with a chilling resolve, he said, "I have a contingency plan. But you won't like it. Tell me. I need you to fire on us." Terran froze. "What?" "The Voidborn have adapted to our weapons. Your ship's plasma cannons have a different frequency. They might break through their defenses. But you'll have to target their generator, even if it means hitting us in the process." Terran hesitated. The idea of firing on an ally, especially one who had saved so many lives, went against every principle of the Alliance. But as the Voidborn ship charged its final weapon, Terran realized there was no choice. "Target the Voidborn generator," Terran commanded. "Fire on my mark." The scout ship's cannons charged. The Voidborn vessel loomed closer, its weapons locking onto the eternal vigilance. Terran took a deep breath. Fire. The plasma cannons roared, striking the Voidborn ship. The impact rippled through space, and the gravity well generator exploded in a brilliant flash. The Voidborn ship disintegrated, its remains scattering into the void. The eternal vigilance floated, battered but intact. Elias's voice came over the comms, low but steady. "Good shot, Commander. We'll live to fight another day." Terran exhaled, his tension easing. But in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. The Voidborn were real, and humanity's return had awakened an ancient nightmare. Secrets unearthed. The scout ship docked with the eternal vigilance, its crew silent and tense. Commander Terran stepped onto the human vessel for the second time, the weight of the recent battle still heavy on his shoulders. The Alliance had narrowly survived its first encounter with the Voidborn, but questions burned in his mind. Elias Venn waited for him in the command chamber, his demeanor calm despite the faint scorch marks on his armor. The holographic galaxy map flickered before him, highlighting the now destroyed Voidborn fleet and the vast void zone from which they had emerged. "You came back," Elias said, his tone neutral. Terran folded his arms. "I want answers." Elias gestured toward the map. "Then listen carefully. Your galaxy's peace is a lie. The Voidborn aren't the only threat waiting in the dark, and the Alliance's refusal to acknowledge its past has left it vulnerable." Terran's eyes narrowed. "What past? What aren't you telling us?" Elias activated a smaller display, showing ancient records of human battles against an empire known as the Syntheri Dominion. The records depicted massive fleets, planets burning, and an eerie shadow-like presence spreading across the stars. The Voidborn, Elias began, aren't just another alien species. They're remnants of the Syntheri, a race that thrived on conquest and destruction. They had no concept of negotiation or peace, only domination. Humanity was the only force capable of stopping them. Terran leaned in, his claws gripping the console. "The Alliance archives mention nothing about this." "Of course not," Elias replied, his tone dark. "The Alliance didn't exist back then. Your species were scattered, divided, while humanity and a few others stood against the Syntheri. We paid the price for everyone's survival." The display shifted, showing humanity's exile. Images of human ships retreating into deep space, their faces stoic and unyielding, filled the room. "When the war was over, the galaxy feared us more than they feared the Syntheri," Elias continued. "They couldn't understand our willingness to do whatever it took. So they exiled us, buried our history, and built the Alliance on the ashes of the truth." Terran's claws tapped against the console. "And now the Voidborn are back." Elias nodded. "Yes, but they're only the beginning. The Syntheri weren't entirely destroyed, just scattered. The Voidborn are their scouts, testing the galaxy's defenses. If we don't prepare, the full force of the Syntheri will return, and they won't stop until every star belongs to them." Before Terran could respond, the holographic map updated. A new signal appeared on the edge of the void zone, accompanied by a chilling message. "We have waited long enough. The harvest begins." Elias's expression darkened. "They're mobilizing." Terran turned to him, his voice steady. "If what you're saying is true, why didn't you warn us sooner?" Elias stepped closer, his piercing blue eyes meeting Terran's. "Because the Alliance wouldn't listen. You would have dismissed us as relics of a forgotten past. But now you've seen the truth with your own eyes. Will you still hesitate?" Back on the scout ship, Terran's crew debated their next move. Vec, the young Alarian advisor, spoke up. "Commander, humans are dangerous. We've seen their methods. If we align with them, what's to stop them from turning on us once the Syntheri are gone?" Terran sat in silence, staring out the viewport at the eternal vigilance. The human ship floated in the void, battered but unbroken, a testament to its crew's resilience. "They could have left us to die," Terran said finally. "Instead, they fought beside us. Right now, they're the only ones who understand the threat we face." "But at what cost?" Vec pressed. Terran turned to him, his voice firm. "If we don't act now, the cost will be everything." Elias invited Terran to a restricted section of the eternal vigilance. The walls were lined with stasis chambers, each containing a humanoid figure frozen in time. Some were human, others alien, and all wore the scars of battle. "This," Elias said, gesturing to the chambers, "is our contingency plan. Each of these individuals is a soldier, a strategist, or a scientist who fought against the Xanthari. We've preserved them, waiting for the day they would be needed again." Terran's eyes widened. "You're reviving warriors from the past." "Not just warriors," Elias corrected. "Legends, minds that understand the Xanthari in ways no one else can. But we can't do it alone." Terran felt the weight of the moment. Humanity's return wasn't just a plea for redemption. It was a call to arms. "What do you need from us?" Elias's expression softened, but his tone remained resolute. "Your trust, your resources, and your willingness to fight, no matter the cost. If the Alliance falters, the Xanthari will consume us all." As Terran returned to his ship, his mind raced with possibilities. The Alliance would never accept humanity's return easily, but the Voidborn attack had already shaken their confidence. They needed hope, even if it came from the galaxy's most feared species. Back on the bridge, Terran addressed his crew. "Set a course for the nearest Alliance command post. We're going to deliver a message, and we're bringing Captain Venn with us." Vec frowned. "Do you think the Council will listen?" Terran's gaze hardened. "They'll have no choice." The scout ship and the Eternal Vigilance moved as one, heading toward the heart of the galaxy. Behind them, the Void Zone simmered with darkness, a silent reminder of the war to come. The galaxy's fragile peace had ended. Now, it was time to prepare for war. The war begins. The Alliance Council Chamber was a place of elegance and order, its circular design meant to symbolize unity among the galaxy's species. But on this day, unity was a fragile illusion. The arrival of humanity's envoy had shaken the very foundations of the chamber, and the councilors' faces reflected their fear and mistrust. Commander Terran stood in the center, flanked by Captain Elias Venn. The tension in the room was palpable. Terran had spoken to these councilors countless times before, but never under such dire circumstances. "You brought them here," Councilor Threx hissed, his yellow eyes narrowing at Elias. "After everything we sacrificed to rid the galaxy of their kind." Terran's voice was firm. "The Voidborn are mobilizing. Humanity has faced them before and survived. Without their help, we won't stand a chance." Councilor Laria, ever the voice of reason, leaned forward. "Commander, these are extraordinary claims. Do you have proof of this threat?" Elias stepped forward, projecting a hologram of the Void Zone. It highlighted the remnants of the recent battle and the ominous signals emanating from the dark region of space. "The Voidborn are a precursor to something far worse. The Xanthari. Your archives erased their existence, but we lived through their terror. They are coming, and they will not negotiate." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some councilors called for immediate action, while others demanded humanity's removal. Terran raised his voice above the noise. "This isn't about politics or grudges. We have seen what the Voidborn can do. They are only the beginning." Elias added, his tone measured but firm, "Your alliance was built on the hope that humanity's absence would guarantee peace. That hope is a lie. The galaxy's silence has only allowed the Xanthari to gather strength. We need to act now." Chancellor Vryn silenced the room with a wave of her scaled hand. "If what you say is true, Captain Venn, then you have my attention. But the Council cannot act without evidence. How can we trust a species known for its ruthlessness?" Elias met her gaze, his expression unreadable. Trust is irrelevant. Survival is not. The Council agreed to send a joint fleet to investigate the Void Zone, with humanity leading the charge. The decision sparked outrage among certain factions, but Chancellor Vrin's authority held firm. Back aboard the Eternal Vigilance, preparations for the mission were underway. Terran and Elias stood in the war room, surrounded by holograms of fleet movements and potential attack strategies. "The Alliance fleet will be cautious," Terran warned. "They don't trust you." "They don't need to," Elias replied, adjusting the map. "They just need to follow orders when the time comes." As the fleet assembled, Terran observed the human crew. Their efficiency was remarkable, their technology far beyond anything the Alliance could produce. But there was something else, a quiet determination in their eyes, as if they had already accepted the worst and were prepared to face it. The fleet arrived at the edge of the Void Zone, its ships forming a loose defensive line. The Eternal Vigilance took point, its sleek, black hull a stark contrast to the polished silver and gold of the Alliance vessels. Sensors lit up immediately. Hundreds of Voidborn ships emerged from the darkness, their movements synchronized and unnerving. They didn't attack right away, instead forming an ominous perimeter around the fleet. Elias's voice cut through the comms. "This is a test. They're gauging our strength." Chancellor Vrin's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Ven, the Council fleet stands ready. What is your plan?" Elias' expression was cold. "We lure them in, then strike their command vessel. Without coordination, the Voidborn will collapse." Terran interjected. "That's a bold move. If we fail." "We won't," Elias said. "Trust me." The battle began with a single shot. The Eternal Vigilance fired a concentrated energy beam, striking a Voidborn ship with pinpoint accuracy. The enemy responded instantly, their ships swarming toward the fleet like a tide. Alliance ships opened fire, their plasma cannons lighting up the void. The Voidborn fought with relentless efficiency, their attacks precise and devastating. But humanity's tactics were unlike anything the Alliance had seen. The Eternal Vigilance moved through the chaos like a predator, striking and vanishing before the Voidborn could retaliate. "Focus fire on the command ship," Elias ordered. "Ignore the rest." Alliance captains hesitated, their instincts urging them to defend their positions. Terran's voice echoed over the comms. "Follow the plan. Trust the humans." As the fleet converged on the command ship, the Voidborn intensified their assault. Alliance ships were pushed to their limits, their shields flickering and engines failing. But the Eternal Vigilance pressed forward, leading the charge. Elias activated a secret weapon, a gravitational pulse that disrupted the Voidborn formation. For a brief moment, their ships faltered, creating an opening. "Now," Elias shouted. Alliance ships unleashed a coordinated barrage, targeting the command vessel's core. The Voidborn ship erupted in a blinding explosion, its fragments scattering into the darkness. The remaining Voidborn ships hesitated, then began retreating into the Void Zone. The battlefield fell silent, the Alliance fleet battered but victorious. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, Elias stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Terran's voice came through the comms. "We won, but this was just the first wave. The Xinthari will come next." Elias nodded. "And when they do, we'll be ready. But only if your Alliance finally accepts the truth." Back aboard the Council station, the galaxy's leaders watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. Humanity's return had proven both their strength and their necessity. But as Chancellor Vrin addressed the Council, her voice carried a somber warning. "The Voidborn have tested us. The Xinthari will break us, unless we stand united. Humanity is not our enemy. They are our last chance." The galaxy's fragile peace was gone, replaced by the looming shadow of war. And this time, humanity would not fight alone. The killer's redemption. The galaxy trembled under the weight of its newfound knowledge. The Council's chambers, once a sanctuary of debate and diplomacy, now pulsed with urgency. The holographic display of the Void Zone dominated the room, its ominous red glow a constant reminder of the coming storm. For the first time in millennia, humanity was not the enemy. They were a reluctant savior. Captain Elias Venn stood at the center of the chamber, flanked by Commander Terran. The human's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the tension radiating from the assembled counselors. "You've seen what we can do," Elias began, his voice steady but charged with purpose. "The Voidborn are only the vanguard. The Xinthari will come, and they will not give you time to deliberate. You must choose now, fight with us or die divided." Counselor Threx sneered, his claws tapping nervously on the table. "And if we choose to fight, what guarantees do we have that humanity won't turn on us once the Xinthari are defeated?" Elias's piercing blue eyes met Threx's. "None. Trust is earned in battle, not in words. But consider this. If humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, we wouldn't have waited 4,000 years. We came back because we saw the threat you refused to face." The debate raged on. Some counselors supported Elias, seeing humanity's return as a necessary evil. Others, like Threx, clung to their distrust, unwilling to forgive ancient grievances. The room's energy crackled with tension, threatening to collapse into chaos. Chancellor Vryn raised her hand, silencing the chamber. Her silver scales glinted in the dim light, a symbol of her authority. "Enough. We have no time for old grudges. Captain Venn, what is your plan for countering the Xinthari's full assault?" Elias projected a new hologram. It displayed a network of hidden star systems scattered across the Void Zone. "These are Xinthari outposts. They've been dormant for centuries, but our reconnaissance shows increased activity. We need to strike first, dismantling their infrastructure before they can fully mobilize." Terran stepped forward, his voice measured. "This will require every resource the Alliance can muster. Coordinated fleets, shared technology, and a willingness to adapt to human tactics." Counselor Laria tilted her head, her feathers ruffling in thought. "And what of the Voidborn remnants? If we focus on the Xinthari, they may exploit our distraction." Elias nodded. "That's why we'll divide our forces. Humanity will lead the assault on the Xinthari outposts. The Alliance fleets will secure the borders, eliminating Voidborn stragglers and protecting core worlds." The Council reluctantly agreed, their unity fragile but functional. Preparations began immediately. The Alliance's most advanced ships joined the Eternal Vigilance, creating a combined fleet that stretched across light years. Terran found himself at the center of it all, bridging the gap between humanity and the Alliance. During the preparations, Terran and Elias shared a quiet moment aboard the Eternal Vigilance. They stood in the observation deck, gazing at the fleet assembling around them. "You don't trust us," Elias said, breaking the silence. Terran glanced at him. "Trust is a luxury in war. But I respect you. That's enough for now." Elias smirked faintly. "Fair enough. Just remember, respect doesn't win wars. Strategy does." The fleet launched into the Void Zone, its mission clear but its outcome uncertain. The journey through the dark, starless expanse was unnerving. Ships moved in tight formations, their sensors scanning for any sign of movement. Every shadow seemed alive, a potential enemy waiting to strike. Finally, they reached the first Xinthari outpost. It was a massive structure, its design alien and organic, pulsing with faint green light. The outpost bristled with defenses, turrets, mines, and a swarm of Voidborn ships waiting to intercept. Elias's voice echoed through the comms. "All units, hold formation. Target the outpost's shield generators. We need a clean shot at their core." The battle began in a storm of light and sound. Human and Alliance ships moved in perfect synchronization, their combined firepower overwhelming the Voidborn defenders. The Eternal Vigilance led the charge, its weapons carving through enemy formations with surgical precision. Terran's ship took a hit, its shields flickering. He barked orders to his crew, pushing his vessel back into formation. "Stay focused. We can't afford to falter now." Inside the Syntheri outpost, Elias deployed a small strike team. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, their advanced suits allowing them to navigate the hostile environment. Terran, insisting on joining the mission, found himself side by side with Elias, their differences momentarily forgotten. The outpost's interior was a labyrinth of pulsating corridors and alien machinery. The deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, a horde of biomechanical creatures surged toward them, their screeches echoing through the halls. "Hold the line," Elias shouted, his weapon blazing. Terran fought beside him, his plasma rifle cutting through the attackers. Despite their differences, the two leaders moved as one, their skills complementing each other perfectly. They reached the outpost's core, a massive glowing structure that pulsed with energy. Elias placed a series of charges around it, his movements quick and precise. "This will disrupt their communications," Elias explained. "It won't destroy the Syntheri, but it will buy us time." As they prepared to leave, the core emitted a low hum. A holographic figure appeared. A Syntheri commander, its form a shifting blend of shadow and light. Its voice was cold and menacing. "You cannot stop us," it said. "Your galaxy will burn, as it was meant to. Humanity's return only ensures your annihilation." Elias stepped forward, his expression defiant. "We've faced worse, and we're still here." The charges detonated, and the team barely escaped as the outpost erupted in a cascade of explosions. The fleet cheered as the structure collapsed, but Elias's face remained grim. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "The Syntheri won't take this lightly. The real battle is yet to come." Back aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Terran reflected on the mission. Humanity's tactics were brutal but effective, their determination unmatched. For the first time, he saw them not as killers, but as protectors, willing to sacrifice everything to ensure the galaxy's survival. The fleet regrouped, readying itself for the next strike. The Syntheri had been wounded, but their full force loomed on the horizon. Terran and Elias stood side by side, their alliance forged in fire. "We've bought ourselves time," Terran said. "But is it enough?" Elias's gaze hardened. "It has to be. A new legacy." The galaxy braced itself as the combined human and alliance fleet prepared for the final confrontation. The Syntheri had retaliated swiftly and mercilessly, sending an armada that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Void Zone, once a dark and silent enigma, now pulsed with the activity of countless ships, their energy signatures overwhelming every sensor. Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Captain Elias Venn stood on the command bridge, surrounded by his crew. Commander Terran was by his side, his face grim but resolute. The bridge was alive with activity as reports poured in from across the fleet. "They outnumber us 5-1, said a human officer, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "They always do," Elias replied, his tone unshaken. "But numbers mean nothing if they can't break us." Terran turned to him, his claws gripping the railing. "We need more than bravery. What's the plan?" Elias gestured to a holographic display of the battlefield. "The Syntheri rely on centralized command. Their fleet moves in perfect synchronization because of their control hubs. We disrupt those hubs, and their forces will collapse into chaos." Terran studied the display, his sharp eyes narrowing. "And where are these hubs?" Elias smiled grimly. "At the heart of their fleet, exactly where they expect us to be too afraid to strike." The fleet advanced into the Void Zone, its ships forming a tight formation around the Eternal Vigilance. The Syntheri armada loomed ahead, their ships massive and unnervingly silent. The first exchange of fire lit up the void, a dazzling display of energy and destruction. Alliance and human ships worked together seamlessly, their combined tactics a testament to their hard-earned trust. The Syntheri, however, were relentless. Their biomechanical ships adapted to each attack, their weapons evolving with every passing moment. As the battle raged, Terran's voice echoed over the comms. "Focus fire on their flanks. Break their formation." Elias's voice followed, calm and commanding. "Prepare the strike team. We're going in." Aboard a small, heavily shielded vessel, Elias and Terran led a joint Human Alliance strike team toward the Syntheri command hub. The vessel weaved through the chaos of the battlefield, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. Terran couldn't help but admire the humans' precision and fearlessness, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The command hub was a massive structure, its surface a pulsating web of organic and mechanical components. It radiated power, its presence almost tangible. As the strike team approached, the Syntheri defenses activated, unleashing swarms of biomechanical drones. "Keep moving," Elias barked, his weapon cutting through the swarm. "We're not here to fight. We're here to end this." The team landed on the hub's surface, their suits protecting them from the hostile environment. Inside, the structure was a labyrinth of twisting corridors and glowing conduits. The air was thick with the hum of energy, and every step felt like a journey deeper into the unknown. At the core of the hub, the strike team encountered the Syntheri's central command, a towering figure of shadow and light, its form constantly shifting. Its voice echoed in their minds, cold and penetrating. "You dare defy us," it hissed. "We are the architects of this galaxy. You are nothing but insects." Elias stepped forward, his weapon raised. "You're not architects. You're parasites, and this galaxy isn't yours to claim." The Syntheri commander extended a tendril of shadow, striking out at the team. Chaos erupted as the team fought to plant explosives on the core's conduits, their weapons barely holding back the relentless attacks. Terran covered Elias as he placed the final charge, his plasma rifle blazing. "We're running out of time." Elias nodded, activating the timer on the charges. "Fall back. Now." The team retreated under heavy fire, their path blocked by swarms of drones. Just as hope seemed lost, a barrage of energy blasts tore through the drones. A human gunship, piloted by one of Elias's officers, had arrived to extract them. As the strike team escaped, the charges detonated, sending a shockwave through the Syntheri command hub. The structure collapsed in on itself, its destruction reverberating across the battlefield. Without their centralized command, the Syntheri fleet faltered. Their once coordinated movements became erratic, and the combined human and Alliance fleet seized the advantage. The tide of the battle turned. One by one, the Syntheri ships were destroyed or forced to retreat into the void zone. The galaxy had won, but the cost was staggering. Ships drifted, damaged and broken, their crews exhausted but victorious. Back aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Elias addressed the fleet. His image was broadcast to every surviving ship, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. "Today, we fought not as humans or as members of the Alliance, but as one united force. The Syntheri will remember this day, not as their victory, but as their defeat. And if they return, we will be ready." Terran stood beside him, his expression thoughtful. "You've proven your worth, Captain. But the galaxy won't forget your past so easily." Elias smiled faintly. "The past is a lesson, not a prison. Humanity doesn't seek forgiveness. We seek a future." The fleet returned to Alliance space, battered but triumphant. The Council, now humbled, began the arduous task of rebuilding and fortifying for the battles to come. Humanity, once feared and exiled, had become the galaxy's unlikely saviors. As Terran watched the Eternal Vigilance prepare to depart, he approached Elias one last time. "Where will you go now?" Elias looked out at the stars. "Wherever we're needed. The galaxy still has shadows to face." Terran extended his clawed hand, and Elias shook it firmly. "You've earned my respect, Captain, and my trust." The Eternal Vigilance faded into the void, its legacy rewritten. The galaxy would remember the killers who became protectors, the exiles who returned to save those who had cast them out. Humanity's redemption had begun, and the stars would never be the same.